knocking at my door. Silent screams, unending dread. Movie reel spins in my head. Candles flicker, ghosts arise. Evil whispers, twisted cries. Deathpit tales of terror spun. Thumping hearts feel the run. 100 scares in my eye. From horror for days gone by. Garrett and Bill by my side. In this haunted midnight ride.
100 scares up in my mind. What's up, UB?
Yeah, pretty badass tune though, really.
I like it. It's pretty damn catchy, man, for sure.
I'm excited, man. This is like one of my favorite shows to do.
Oh, dude, this is fun, man. It's week 2 of our Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments from 2004. This documentary or this show was released, and a lot of us old school fans learned a lot from the show. At least I did. We talked about this on episode 1, so if you guys haven't seen that, make sure to go back and check it out after this is over. But we're running through episode 2. It's going to be about 7 episodes, and we are talking about their number 84 to what, 70-ish, 69?
Yeah.
List tonight. So if you want us to know is that they're higher, 100th, 90ths, and all that stuff, you got to go back and check it out. But interesting little lineup we get tonight here, UB.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that this was kind of the thing that you went to, for horror movies. It's funny because I was watching this today to prepare for it, and Savannah came in and she was like, I used to watch this, and it would like help me pick out like horror movies to watch. So she went off this list and she would like go out and find these movies of stuff that she hadn't seen and stuff. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I did the same thing around that time. It's like
100% I did. 100%. And there's even something on this list tonight. Let me just make sure. I think there's definitely one on here tonight that I went and got as soon as I saw this list. So, I know that for a fact, but it's an interesting list tonight. I think the first episode was really fun. We kind of took a little bit longer than normal. We try to keep this about an hour, but we were kind of bullshit at the beginning, talking about Shudder's list, Bravo's list. And then I was going through my Eli Roth story. So it took a little while because Eli is all over this 2004 Bravo show. So he literally is like the front runner of this show. So it only made sense to tell my story, but that's over and done with. If you want to hear it, go back and check out episode 1. But
did you notice though? Like I was hoping you noticed this because I noticed it. There's 2 different versions of Eli Roth in this countdown. There's one version where he's got hair that's basically almost like mine, and then there's the other version. He's got the fucking like.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, if you go back and watch like certain reviews, he's just got like normal hair, and then there's other reviews where he's got it like teased out like in like 1980s.
So this must have been like a long process of them doing this show, huh? Like
it had to be, yeah. Yep.
That's funny, man. And I look at this list today, and I don't know, it's kind of a weird list. Like there's some that didn't make it to Shudder's list, which we talk about as we do this. We kind of compare and contrast like what Shudder was doing last year when we did their ranking, and what made the list, what doesn't make the list, what kind of moved up. But I think there was definitely a couple on here that we didn't talk about on the Shudder list last year.
No, well, the only thing that changed from this list to the Shudder list was the inclusion of the word horror, because like it was Shudder's 101 scariest horror movie moments, and then it was just the 100 scariest movie moments from Bravo. So it's like I wonder if that's why it seems weird, because a lot of these movies aren't horror films. Like they're just not. Like they're some sci-fi, some drama, some like thriller stuff. Like it's all over the map in terms of like the picks.
I could see that being a big change, right? Because we talked about some stuff last time, like Wizard of Oz and Jurassic Park and all this other stuff that, they had scary movie moments, or they were scary movies to specific people, but they weren't necessarily horror films. So we kind of see that again here on tonight's list. But before we start, what I'll do is I'll pop through, just say what's up to a couple people, and we'll get this thing rocking and rolling. Vanderhoff's in the house. Hello, my friend. How are you doing? The Gruesome Twosome. What's up, man? Hello from Central Texas. Sasquatch are real. Thanks for being here, man. Boom. Dino in the house is nice. Back for part 2, Rose. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions on these 2 faulty lists. What's up, you being the Radster? What's up, Dino? And yeah, definitely hit the like button on both channels. We're streaming simulcasting from Born to Be Rad's channel. That's mine. And then Uncle Bill's channel is DEADPIT.com. And you can go check them out. Is it? I always get confused. Is it DEADPIT Radio on YouTube or DEADPIT.com?
That's a good fucking question. I don't even know. I think it's DEADPIT Radio on YouTube and DEADPIT.com is the website. And then Into the Dead Pit is the Instagram. There's so many different like variations.
Yeah, I mean, if you type in deadpit.com, it should take you there, I'm assuming, to the YouTube channel. But yeah, you can hit both like buttons on that if you're enjoying the content. Make sure you subscribe to both channels because we do a lot of stuff together. We do a lot of different stuff as well. So definitely go check out both sides of this. We've got Tape Rot. What's up, man? Magic Hands. What's going on, dude? Hello, Governor. What's up, Scratch? Huck. What's up, Huckster? Huckster, brother. What up, Tanya?
Not your man,
Spooky Wildflower. Who does number 2?
1750 film.
Got a redemption in the house. He's in the house. Yeah, I mean, we agree, Tanya. It's the same thing. That show was a moment. We watched every day. It was a big deal back then, and so much so that I recorded it or I burned it on a disc, and I did watch it multiple times, multiple years around Halloween, just to kind of get myself refreshed on some stuff I wanted to watch. Dark Light in the house. What is going on? Mel is here from My Killer Podcast. What's up, kid? Ayo. He's ready. Maya's ready. He watched the first 2 episodes on YouTube. You'll watch the 1 episodes later. Gora Tiger. What's up, man? Saturn Video. What's up? You said it's basically like a checklist. What?
Just when you did Gory Tiger, just put me in the DO space. Yeah.
I do it every time. So like I have specific ways I say certain people's names. So it's always Gora Tiger, and then it's always Maya, because that's from Back to the Future. So
yeah.
My man Eli. What's up, dude? Let me see. Hell yeah, Alexander. What's up? Welcome back, Lumberjack. He's finally here.
Wow,
for a
yeah, it's good to see you.
Robzilla, where is this list being shown? So basically, if you guys don't know, this was, for anybody who does not know, this was a 2004 kind of like show that they did, basically like Shudder did with their 101 scariest horror movie moments. This was the same idea that they did in 2004, and it was almost kind of like, we talked about this before, but correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of the first time anything like this has ever been done, like on, accessible to the average person, as far as I knew.
I mean, yeah, there may have been earlier ones of these, but like I can't remember. And this is like the main one that I remember. I tell you something else interesting about this list too, though, man. In the people that were on it, they had everybody. This is when TV, I feel like, was much more, like I still feel like everybody had cable at this point, and it was much more of a big thing to have like television to watch something like this on, because they had every main horror director, every one of them on here. And like they had like Peter Jackson, they had Romero, they had Wes Craven, they had Toby Hooper, they had John Carpenter, they had anybody you could think of like was a part of this. Like they were the talking heads. So it gave it a lot more credibility, I feel like, than other list shows like this.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge deal. And someone just said 2004. It's insane to think it was 20 years ago. So, and yeah, it's DEADPIT Radio on YouTube. Thanks, dude. Rambo's in the house. Let me see. When did I buy $300 Chainsaw Massacre set, and when is it arriving?
Yeah.
What's funny? I actually wanted to do a video on that, but I had to do my convention video the other night. That was the toss-up. Do I do this first or this first? Because I do have a couple things I want to say about that set. I mean, I'm going to say this basically when it all comes down to it. In my opinion, that set is going to become way cheaper in the future. I would say it's not going to be at that price. I mean, look at that Black Maria set. That Black Maria set, I didn't get right away. I mean, actually, I didn't get it at all, but I have it now, but it took us to do the Chainsaw Massacre show to actually decide I finally wanted to get it. And it's not that easy to track down now, but at one point, I mean, that thing was like half the price at retail. than it
Well,
started.
yeah, I mean, there's no way that sells out at that price point. It just won't. Like they made 5,000 of them, I think, at $300 a piece. There's no way.
I mean, you and I are
So,
both pretty big Texas Chainsaw Massacre
oh
fans,
yeah,
and it would be cool to have, but it's a hard sell for me for that price.
yeah. I mean, you really have to have something like incredible to spend $300 on something, man. That's like, I mean, Scream Factory's kind of trying to do it with Labyrinth and stuff like that right now,
Mhm,
but like you get 57 different things in there. You like, you know what I mean?
mhm.
Like they put everything in the world in those sets. Even though I don't agree with it being that high, it's still like you get a ton of stuff, and this is just like you get like 3 things. So I don't know. Something
It's the
about it. It's just
chainsaw, I think, is what's doing it, but, like, it's a little saw. It's not only this big,
yeah,
it's not a big saw, it's a small one. It's like a little it looks
yeah.
like a
I
little
mean,
kid's toy saw.
what are you gonna do with it? Like, where are you
I
gonna
mean, it
put
would
it?
be a
For
nice
one thing.
display piece, of course, on a shelf, but 300's a lot. I mean, that saw isn't worth I mean,
Somebody,
you know what I mean? Like, even if you break it all down and say, like, 250 for everything, and that means 50 for everything, and that means the saw is $250 for that,
yeah,
it doesn't make sense, you know?
no. I think it was Noah that said like you can buy an actual chainsaw for that amount. Like you can
For
like,
you could,
yeah.
yeah. So, it's a tough sell, and it's hard because it is cool, and I love Texas Chainsaw, and I think I will probably get it at some point, but not until it goes on sale. I mean, there's no way I'm paying $300, and the other
No.
issue I have with it, I should just do a video on this instead of talking about it now, but once these companies start doing this stuff and people are buying it, then it's gonna become the norm, and that is not a good thing, I think, is that people are gonna be like, "Oh, well, yeah, we sold out, so why not all these other companies do higher end releases?" I mean, we're already seeing a lot of it now with
Yeah.
Umbrella, and they're doing a great job with what they're getting, but, some of these discs, like, for instance, the Mario set was $100. That's
Mhm.
one movie. I mean, it comes with a lot of cool shit in there, but in reality, it's one movie. And the same thing with, I just got something else that was expensive. Oh, like I got the Late Night with the Devil umbrella set. I mean, that was
Yep.
pricey set too, and it came with cool things, a VHS, a TV guide, all these promo things that I'm a freaking sucker for. But I mean, I still think that was rounding around almost $100. Now,
You can kinda
you know,
see, like, these companies are taking a hard turn towards more of, like, the collector stuff. Like, more of the hardcore collectors they're trying to get rather than, like they're going less and less from the mainstream and more very, very specific about how much stuff they're putting into these and making these big deluxe edition sets that only really appeals to people like you and me. Like, the
mhm,
people that really are into physical media collection and things like that. Like, they're really aiming everything they've got now. Like, so you look at Scream Factory, you look at Severin, you look at, Umbrella, you look at really any of them except maybe Arrow and Kino right now, and they're all like guiding everything towards those collectors. Like that seems to be the route right now for whatever reason.
yeah. I mean, I'm trying to be better, but it's hard. Like, for instance, and I'm gonna tell the story really quick. Is I got the Neverending Story set. Now that set was way too much money. I did not want to spend that money for that set. I
Yep.
was like, I said, if it would be a different story, if you got part 2, part 3, it would have juiced it up a little bit. But it's not. It's one film. There's multiple cuts of the film. You get this big book. I love the movie. You get the documentary in it. I have that documentary already. That's the one Lisa Downs did. It's a cool documentary, but I own it. So what would be the point of for me to buy this? And it was expensive. And all of a sudden, one day I get money sent to my PayPal account, and it says and it's from a viewer, and it said, "Hey, this is for the Neverending Story set. I want you to review it." And it was more than half of what it cost.
Jeez.
So at
Yeah.
that point, I was like, "Oh my god! Like I've got to get, I gotta get it." I mean, this guy just sent me money specifically to review this item, more than half of what it cost. I'm like, I do one of two things. I send it back to him, or I just fork over the rest and just get it.
It'd be killer if
So
you send it back to
no, so
no.
in two
Ain't
act, like
doing it.
I want it, and I'm appreciative of him doing that, and I will get it and review it. But at the same time, my only issue with going through with it is because I don't condone a price point like that. I
No,
don't,
it sucks,
and
man.
because I think it goes back to the same thing: is the more everybody buys it, the more everybody's going to think
You
that's
know
what
what?
prices should be.
You know what this is? I'll tell you exactly what this is to me. It's like conventions. It's like what happened to conventions.
Mhm.
Like they ratchet it up a little bit at a time, right? And it's like eventually it just becomes the norm. And that's what's going to happen to this stuff. It's going to get to a certain price point, like conventions are now, and everybody's going to be like, "Oh shit, I remember when stuff was just $30 or $40."
Mm,
Like that's what it's going
right.
to be soon. And I just dread it when this kind of stuff happens because you're right. Like people are like the collectors, the people that really like
Mhm.
are enthusiasts for this kind of thing are going to buy this stuff, and it's going to encourage these companies just to keep pumping as much of that as at that price, and we're going to be in a world of shit soon
Mhm.
in
No,
terms of
I agree.
money.
It's unfortunate, but again, I did want it, and it was an easy way for me to justify getting it. Um, so I will do a review on it and whatnot. But yeah, I just didn't want to, play that game and get all these companies excited that these things are selling. And there was another thing, like the what's the thing that just came out? Paramount Screams. Like I'm not getting that.
Well,
I'm not getting it. I think the price point's actually pretty good for it. I will say that.
yeah,
I'll say it's actually priced really well.
Paramount Scares or something like that. Was that it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I have the first one. I don't really like them. I don't like
yeah.
the whole collection. I mean, the randomness of it, the slip covers, I don't like them. The box is big. It's hard to,
Well, I saw
put
something too that Paramount started doing. They're doing Paramount Selects, which
those
is
like
like,
each thing's like a chunky box, right? But it's like
yeah, it's like a
those are
big,
pretty cool, but
yeah.
yeah.
But if a company like that notices that like the only people really buying this stuff is physical media collectors, I mean, it's pretty, you know what I mean? Like they're trying to make that those movies are geared towards
Mhm.
collectors because they've got the
Mhm.
bigger boxes, they got little inserts and things like that in them. Like it's just become, I feel like everything is going that way because they must be the only people really buying physical media. Like it's a very small niche market of
I
people.
think we're the ones keeping it alive, and you can see when Paramount and Warner and all these other companies are making like boutique looking sets and
Yeah.
chunky boxes with art cards. They know.
Yeah.
They
Oh yeah.
know. I mean, you started seeing it in the UK, now it's pouring over to here. And, all those Paramount Scare movies, they're just the regular editions. And I think I have everything in the box except Friday 2. And that's going to come out by itself. And then I bet all these other releases are going to have those select lines later down the road. It's just going to be
Yep.
patient. The only thing I'm missing is that Fangoria, which I wouldn't mind having. That's the only thing, but I'm not going to pay $80 for a magazine. I'm just not going to do it. So I'm gonna fight the urge to continue with a set like that and just say I was one and done, for now.
Yeah.
But if you don't own those films, I think for what you're getting, they actually have it priced really well.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's the key to me is like how many times you want to upgrade something. Like if you
Mhm.
already have it, like I don't know. Like I'd try to direct my attention more at this point in my life to things that have never really been on anything except maybe DVD or, something like that if I'm going to spend like quite a bit of money.
Mhm. And I see a lot of people in here, and if I didn't get to you, thank you all for being here. We got to get to this show
Oh
here.
yeah,
We're going on a tangent again, but
there is a
thank you guys
show.
for being in here. We'll get
Yeah.
back to you as we kind of roll through this thing. Um,
Yeah. I
wait,
just saw it too. Yeah.
who am I keeping in business?
You probably keep
Who
the business on your own.
Who? I didn't
Physical,
see
I think physical media in general is what
oh,
he's
physical
talking about.
media. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little crazy. All right. So we will start out with number 84 on this list. This is where episode 2 starts, 84. And it's a cool title. I mean, it's a cool movie. It's David Lynch's Blue Velvet. Um
Yep.
and I mean, it's one of those thrillers. It's got scary moments in it. I mean, it's got some freaky shit in there. Okay. I mean, I guess I'm fine with it being on this list where it is.
It's on
But
every list like this,
you
I've
know, I think
noticed.
I think that it could have been on Shutters. I don't remember, but I mean, it's a great movie for anybody who has not seen it.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that ever like talks about this movie, they only talk about Dennis Hopper, like in the ether. Like that's the main thing because like that was the most disturbing part about the movie, probably. But like, you know, it comes up a lot in lists like this. It is a classic kind of scene. It's a classic character. Um, so yeah, guess I agree with it. They knock out a lot of stuff though that probably would have been better served by putting shit like this on these kind of lists, if I'm being honest. That it would probably fit better.
Yeah, and Dirk's in the house. What's up, man? He said scariest moment. Well, the problem is we've talked about this before, is like
Yeah.
they don't really give us moments. Some movies they'll decide to, and then others they'll just do the movie. And some of these they flew by, like flew through very quickly. They were like talked about it for like 1 second, and they moved on to the next one. So this one, I mean, I don't know. They showed the scene with him with the nitrous oxide thing or whatever, but I mean, I don't think that would be considered scary. They just said he was very intense. But yeah, they didn't really.
Mommy. Yeah. That's the exact scene they showed too.
That is the scene they showed. Yeah.
This was not on Shudder's list, by the way. I just checked because
it wasn't.
No,
because I guess it's not horror for the horror list or whatever. Yeah. So that's how we're starting tonight. We're starting with Blue Velvet. I
like Lynch. Some of his stuff's like way too out there, even for me. Like, but I do like a lot of his stuff, and Blue Velvet's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. This next one, I mean, you see this on lists time and again. I never really was a huge fan of this movie. I know other people are. I don't know if it was just when it came out, I was really more into different things. And that is The Others, came in at number 83. Again, it's fine. But again, at this point, when this came out, I think I was a little bit more into different type of horror. So this to me felt kind of boring. But I have not gone back and watched The Others in a very, very long time. I've been considering getting that new Criterion to try to give me a new reason to check it out. But what do you think of this one?
I loved it when it came out and rewatched it like a bunch of times, but it has the same problem to me as like a lot of M. Night Shyamalan films, which is once you know it,
that's what Jackson Jack just said.
Yeah. So it's like, it's very much like those type of films. And once you know what happens at the end, they're just not that fun to watch anymore. Like to me, some of them are more so than others. Like we've talked about Stir of Echoes. It seems to have more rewatchability than like Sixth Sense and even the others to me. I don't know why.
What, Stir of Echoes?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, that one. And I think even like Frailty to me, like both still feel like the rewatch value is a little bit higher than something like Sixth Sense. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen The Others in a very, very long time since DVD. I think that's the only way I still own this. So it's been a while, and everybody just remembers that one scene because it was like parodied, and it's the scene you see every single time you watch it is "I am not your mother" or whatever it was. There.
They did that in some of those scary movies. It was Michael.
Yeah,
that's all I can think about now when I see that.
Yeah. That's so funny.
I feel like some movies just don't hold up as well as others do. And this was 2004, so I think that movie was only like a couple years old at that point. So,
what was that? It would had to have been maybe 2000, 2001.
That's what I was thinking. Like, yeah. Let's see. The Others came out in 2001. Yep.
So yeah, I mean, at that point, that was like one of the modern movies that were making this list. And when we did the Shudder one, we saw that happening too, where you started to see a lot of newer movies get put in this list. So yeah, I mean, they must have really had a good reception for Others when it first came out. But that was number 83. Number 82 is an interesting one. I'm cool with it. Again, I don't know. I hope I didn't mess up my list, but I'm cool with this. I did a little video on this at one point talking about how, elements of this could very well just kind of be like a slasher movie.
Yeah.
And that's the Terminator. And, it's not really considered horror, I would say. But, I mean, there are so many elements of it that just mimic a slasher movie from a different angle. And I don't know. It to me, Terminator just works on all levels.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think, UB?
It's just to me, it's like a great blend of almost every genre, like action, exploitation, sci-fi, horror, maybe a little bit of comedy in there even too. Like, especially in the beginning, some of the scenes, like, what is the scene where he walks up to Bill Paxton and he goes, "Laundry day, nothing clean, right?" nothing clean, right? Yeah.
Dude, Paxton had a great look at that.
Yeah.
That outfit that he gives him at the beginning, like I've been trying to find that shirt for like ever. Like that
Yeah.
sick shirt with like the like splattered paint with like the cut sleeves. I've been like trying to find that thing. And then I think the fashion in this movie rocks. A couple of years ago for Halloween, I dressed as Kyle Reese from this. Got the Nikes, got the long jacket.
Yep.
So it's I love Terminator. As a kid, Terminator 2 is my jam. As an adult, Terminator is my jam over the other ones. Such a cool movie. I mean, I'm fine with it being here. Like you said, it really does blend a lot of genres in one. And I don't know. I love it.
Yeah, and they said too that like it still holds up today for some reason, even though like it was a very cheap movie, even maybe for that time period, but like everything is up on the screen. Like Cameron comes from that Roger Corman style, like you put everything up on the screen, all the money goes up on the screen, like some way or another. Like, and it just still looks amazing when you go back and watch it, despite the fact that he scrubbed out all of the grain.
Well, it is getting into
trying to.
4K, so we'll see what that thing's going to look like on its new edition. But if it's anything like, True Lies and stuff like that, then it's going to be an interesting watch for sure.
Matt brings up a good point. He says, do they mention the actual moment? Not really. Like the actual moments from the films that are the scariest. Sometimes they do, and like sometimes they don't.
Yeah, sometimes they do. Sometimes this they didn't. I think they just showed a scene where he was like turning into the robot and was like trying to grab her or whatever. Like they didn't really get into it. But I mean, there are some scenes in this too that are really, that frightening. Like that. I think it's just a cool scene. Like when he's going through the phone book and he's finding all the Sarah Connors and just going to their house and just killing them just because he doesn't know. So he's like, all right, one of these is going to be it. Like that's then when he finally finds her and he's like in the apartment and stuff like that, like with the her roommate and all that's a pretty freaky, moment. And him hunting her down. He shows up at the nightclub and stuff. Like it's great, man. It's a great flick, and there's a lot of tension.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about that movie, man? Like I said, it works on every single level. You can watch it like over and over again. It never gets old. In high school, we used to quote. That's why I do that so much now. Is we used to just quote like every line that he had in the film, to the point where now I've got that whole thing memorized where he goes into the gun store, and it's
Uzi 9mm.
Yeah, need the phase plasma rifle in the 40-watt range. And that guy's like, "This is what you see, pal."
That's a great scene, dude. He's like so cool about it. He's like just loading it up. Yeah, what are you doing, man?
He goes, "It looks like I can close early today."
The Arnold was like loaded.
Yeah.
So funny. This is a great question. Dirk, he says, question for everyone: do you all watch the same films around Halloween or just switch it up every year? Let's say you.
Yeah, I don't watch the same ones. I'd go crazy like if I tried to do that. Now there are some that I watch or try to watch every year, and that's mostly because like of the kids and things like that, like Trick or Treat. Not the Trick or Treat that's definitely coming out for Halloween this year, but the other Trick or Treat, the Michael Dougherty one, who's in this, by the way. Did you notice that? Michael Dougherty, the guy that did Trick or Treat, is in this, but it was before, I'm pretty sure it was before he did any of that. Like it was like he had done X-Men 2, I think, at that point. It's the same guy. He just looks like he's 17 years old in this.
I probably saw him and didn't even put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
But I would have to say my answer is basically just like yours. There's some that I'll always kind of throw in at some point during the season. Not many, but I more or less switch it up every year. I'm actually working on a video now. I've got a lot of stuff right here about, lesser known movies to add to your watch this list this year. Not necessarily movies that take place around Halloween or anything, but just different horror movies that kind of have a good tone that I think maybe not a lot of people have seen that they might want to add to the list. And there'll be some in there that I've talked about plenty of times before. But just maybe getting some eyeballs on some new stuff, because it seems like people do a lot of the time watch the same movies every year, like the Hocus Pocus, the Halloween, the Trick or Treats. Like it seems like that's just a constant rotation for a lot of people, but there's some cool stuff out there. I'll just throw it in there. I mean, like Hack-O-Lantern. I mean, why wouldn't you watch this?
Why would
I
you
mean,
not?
that's,
That
you know,
is actually a hilarious movie, by the way.
yeah, it's a fun movie, you know. Little cult action going on there. It's a good one.
It's hilarious as like Satanism can be, I suppose.
Let me see. Yeah. Yeah. He says the funniest moment about the Bravo is a lot of talking heads that aren't even relevant in Hollywood anymore than you do with they show Where Are They Now? Kind of true, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to you before the show. I made a list of like all the people that are in this, and half of them I don't even know. But I give you a real quick like rundown of who like the talking heads are in this section, real quick. So you got Lance Henriksen, Olivia Hussey, Ashley Lawrence, Ryder Strong, Toby Hooper, Amber Benson, Linda Murata, who apparently worked for Fangoria at some point in time, John Landis, Jennifer Tilly, Stan Winston, the Coors Light twins, which kills me, man.
That's what was going on in 2004 here.
Then you got people like Faith Sally, who I have no idea who that is, Adam Rockoff, Michael Dougherty's in it, Tom Savini, Gilbert Godfrey, Leonard Maltin, Tony Todd, Rob Reiner, Mick Garris, Guillermo del Toro, Rory Culkin, just Peter Jackson. I guess Rory Culkin was in it because like Signs had come out like right around that time.
It did, yeah.
That makes sense. 100%. Yeah. But I mean, there's a bunch of people, bunch more people that like have no business being in this I didn't even write down.
Yeah, what was the dude's name that we mentioned earlier? He was like in comedies. He was in Not Another Teen Movie and he was Dumb and Dumber or whatever.
Eric Christian Olsen.
Yeah, like he was in the Thing prequel or whatever, but I mean, I don't know what he was doing for horror back then, unless he was in like Club Dread or one of those things. But he was like Not Another Teen Movie with the, you know, nice turtleneck.
He could have been in something fucking stupid like Swim Fan or something. You know what I mean? Like there were so many those kind of thrillers that came out that. Is he one of the Olsens like of like that family? I wondered that when I saw his name.
I don't know. But he was always kind of good, I thought. Like in this, like some of those comedies, he was always pretty funny. But it was just funny to see him on the list because I don't know what he's up to now. I mean, he could be still doing stuff. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't either. I haven't heard anything about that guy.
Oh, Jackson Jack said it is the brother of the Olsen twins.
Isn't that wild, man? Like I'm just that name. You're like, it's got to be. It's got to be.
Was he in Virgin Suicides? I've never seen that. I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't seen Jeff Katz yet, though. No.
Jeff Katz was not in this somehow or another.
Let's talk about Freddy vs. Jason, I think. In Sleepaway Camp, I think he talked about that for a while.
You had the girl, too, that was like, I brought down some of the more dumb ones, too. Like the girl that was in Scream 2 for about 30 seconds. She was like one of the sorority sisters.
Mm-hmm.
He's in it.
Jordan Ladd was in it from
Ladd, yeah.
Fever, yeah.
Peter Stickles, whoever the hell that guy is. Darren Miller from CKY, who is a huge horror movie, and I think he married like Melissa
Rose. Yeah, he did. Yeah,
but I mean, yeah,
wasn't his favorite movie "Don't Go in the Woods Alone" or something?
Yes, yeah, he did something with that. He did something with that DVD. I can't remember what he did on it, but maybe a commentary.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's funny.
Such an odd movie to be your favorite movie, by the way.
And they would use that as like a selling point, like CKY's favorite horror movie or something they put in. We could probably get Darren on a show, I bet.
Probably, yeah.
Like, so what did you just always have a thing for Melissa, or what? How did that happen? That's kind of wild to think about, because I mean, that's all anybody would know her from. I mean, imagine being just a huge heart. I mean, she is a sweetheart and a half. I'll tell you that. I mean, I can understand, between how she looks and how she acts, that someone would be attracted to her. But it's just kind of funny because, when they first met, he must have been like, I'm going to go on a date with the chick from Sleepaway Camp,
Well, that's the weird thing about it, is that like that he had to have like a huge crush on her from that film, and then he just made that a reality. Like he's like, all right, I'm gonna get like hooked up with the Sleepaway Camp girl.
And I'm just curious how they would have met too. Like, did he search her out? You know what I mean? Like, were they at a convention? Like, it's just wild to think about.
Yeah, he had to. Like, that has to be one of those things.
I love it. But number 81 is interesting because I feel like it's pretty high on the list. Like I feel like it would have been. It's hard because is it higher up or lower? Like I don't know what we say here.
Yeah.
I figured it would be closer to number one, and that's make sure I've got these right. Howling is the Howling the next one?
Howling's 81. Yeah. I thought the same thing too about this because this is a hard movie to gauge to me, really, like about how high it should be up on a list like this because you got a lot of like other movies to consider. But I mean, I'm okay with where that's at. Like, I like that movie, but I don't know. I don't go crazy over that movie as much as some people do. Like some people, it's like their favorite werewolf movie. You know?
I like it a lot, but I mean, we're only in the 80s. Like, I'm like, what's coming? You know, like that's where I'm kind of thinking of, you know, I'm thinking of these big names in horror, like, and I'm like, what's coming? I think Howling to me is just, it's won me over a lot through the years. I think we talked about this briefly on the show last week, is that we're doing at the Rad Pack podcast for October, we're doing American Werewolf versus Howling, like a little battle thing, because it seems like those two always group together. People are either they love one more than the other. So we're going to do a little battle with some tiers and different categories and see what the people have to say. But if you would have asked me this as a teenager, I would have told you Werewolf in London 120%. But this one now, I feel like it's really kind of evened out for me. And I don't know if it's just got a cool tone and a vibe to it, similar as like I get when I watch something like The Fog. Like there's something about it that I just feel has like a really cool tone with it. But I think it's a great movie for sure. And I mean, obviously, I'm glad to see it on the list.
The weirdest part about that is I would have told you the exact opposite. I would have originally gone with The Howling, and that was my favorite, you know, for a long time because I saw that one first. I'm almost positive and saw it quite a bit, like, you know, back in the day. But then, like, you know, watched American Werewolf more times later on, and that kind of switched. Those two kind of switched. I don't know, like, yeah, it would fall that way for me now. Oddly enough, though, The Howling is number 54 on the Shudder list, so it's quite a bit above.
So it moved way up,
throughout
the years.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm onto something. Maybe more people are finding it, liking it more now. You know.
Yep. I mean, it's like really when I look at it, there's only two werewolf films to me that are like in the S tier, and those are the two. Like, that's it.
Patrick said he wanted to watch The Howling, but accidentally watched the one from 2017.
Oh, Jesus.
What the hell did I watch? Yeah, I remember when that came out. That was supposed to be like a reimagining or whatever. I think it was like straight to DVD or something.
Straight to ass. Yeah. I'll tell you, go watch American Werewolf in Paris if you want to see something else that's just.
But that had like a theatrical run and stuff, right?
Because
I can remember when that was like the trailers were out for that as a kid. I was like, what is this? Like, I heard about this before I knew what London was because I was a little kid.
It had that dude in it too that was popular for like a brief period. That Tom Everett Scott, wasn't that his name? Like,
I have to remember the face. Dude, I haven't seen Paris in God knows how long.
Somebody in here will know that. But like that guy was another guy that he probably should have been on this, like, as talking head.
Yeah, it was definitely during a time of, you know, they were figuring CGI out. Like at that point, you know, it was like one of those weird eras where it was like so bad.
Yeah. That's pretty much what absolutely kills that movie too.
Yeah, same thing. Bad CGI. It seems like, it seems like a lot of people are saying they're pro Werewolf in London for sure. But that's The Howling coming in at number 81, and even 80 to me was a little bit shocking that it would be this at this point of the countdown. And that's Poltergeist. Now, it's a freaking classic. I mean, I'm surprised, especially with a list like this, that this wouldn't have been a movie in like the top 20. You know, but yeah, it's where we're at.
Well, when you look at like films that actually had moments in them that terrified people and kids, especially at that time period, that clown scene has got to be higher than that, man. If we're going on that scene alone, that's got to be up there higher than that. I've never been a huge fan of Poltergeist. I just never have. Like, I don't know why. It's just something that I watched it at a drive-in theater when I was a kid, of all things. Like, and I can remember like it scared the shit out of me, but I just watching it today, I just don't get anything out of it. So I'm partially biased, but I do know that scene scared the shit out of every kid around that time period. So it should definitely be higher up.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Yeah, I mean, Poltergeist to me is, I like it. It's not, I wouldn't say it's, top 20 horror movies for me of all time. I ended up seeing it in the theater. They did like a re-release like 10 years ago, whatever. I ended up going to check it out. Again, it's a good movie. It's effective. I like the fact that it can work, on the level of a kid could watch it and get freaked out, or I really, those gateway horror movies to me are just something I absolutely love, like The Gate and Poltergeist, like those, and any movie that I feel like you could get away with watching as a kid, and then that can bring up your love for the genre. I've always was a big fan of those from back in the 80s and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it was shocking to me to see this in the list, and you're right, the clown scene is just epic. And going back to Scary Movie, I always think of that one too, with the clown scene where he's like, Uncle Ray Ray wants to play a game or whatever. He's like attacking the clown.
Amazing scene, yeah.
And the clown's all hands are like scratching the floor. Turns the tables on him. Oh my god, that still makes me laugh.
Yeah, Scary Movie 2 alone is like,
oh my god,
you could do a whole video on that.
For real. We did one. We did a Rad Pack episode about the Scary Movie 1 and 2. And it was funny because I did like a short or a video reel when Believer was announced, and I spliced some scenes from that beginning of Scary Movie 2, and I like made it seem like that was like the trailer for Believer. And I put like the title of Believer at the end or something, because that scene is just still insane to me. Seeing that for the first time in the theater, I was dying laughing.
Yeah, man, there's a bunch of people watching that together. Like when I first saw it, and everybody was just like fucking dying. It's just classic.
When he walks into the room, the first thing, and he sees her and the head spins around, he's like, fuck this, and like leaves, and it's like, yeah, that's what a normal person would do.
Yeah. It's like, Father, he goes and gets it. Oh shit.
Your mother's in here, like, get out of there. Like, she's like in the bed or something.
Yeah. It's like, would you get out of there, Mom?
I'm working here.
Every part of that scene is a classic, is the bad thing about it. Like, you could, like, every part.
And then when she's doing the tongue and saying F me, and all of a sudden the guy turns around, he's like really doing it.
James Woods is amazing in that too. Like he's the thing that makes that scene work.
Oh my god. I love that scene for sure. It's so funny. And then finally he just like blows her away. Yeah. It's like, I've had enough of this shit. It's like fucking green shit everywhere.
Even the scene too, like before he even goes in there where it's just ripping off Amityville where he's on the toilet. He's like, please.
Yeah. Help me release this demon.
Yeah.
So good, man. Oh my god. Now this is where we get to 79. And this is where they kind of, same with Shudder and stuff, where they kind of feel like, all right, we got to throw a Universal monster in this top 10 list or whatever. And they throw Dracula in here. Is that correct on your end too?
Yes. Yep. And like, I get it. I just don't care about those movies, man. Like, I try really hard. I get they're important. I get their significance, but like the Universal monster movies, I've watched them many times and tried to like really get into them. It's just I don't know. It's not my era. You know what I mean? Like, I can't get attached to those films like I can from the 80s or 90s or anything like that.
Yeah, as a kid, I agree. I mean, as a kid, I was heavily into Universal Monsters because, again, it was a lot of gateway stuff for me, things that I was watching and, becoming a horror fan. Now, honestly, I haven't watched any Universal Monster movies in, I don't know. I have a Blu-ray box set probably when that came out. I went through them all.
Yeah.
But it's been a long time. And, I know a lot of people that go back and watch them every year. And to be honest, when I still get the same feelings when we do shows like this and we're watching these Bravo shows and, I'm doing another podcast talking about other things like, or watching other people's, shows. Sometimes it makes me feel like I want to go back and watch these again. And just to see if like, I do appreciate them more now than I did 10 years ago or 15 years ago, whatever. And, the other two things I'm really want to sit down and like try to just plow through, and I'm like, maybe I'll do it for October. I don't know, is, really just pour into like more of like the giallo stuff that maybe I've only seen once or twice. And then on this side of the fence, it's like, oh man, I would love to pick up some hammer and just kind of hammer some of that shit out. No pun intended, because that's a whole side of the genre that I'm not familiar with at all. And my uncle has been really telling me forever that he thinks I should try to get more into that stuff. And the same thing with the giallo stuff is the same way. Like I like the Italian stuff. Like I've seen things here and there, but not enough for me to remember which movie is which and all that stuff.
Well,
but
I think mostly because of those shows that we did a while back, the giallo shows, and mostly because of Dirk too. Like I started getting more and more into giallo, but then I took a hard turn, started getting more and more into like Asian Cat 3 stuff here lately. And it's like,
that ain't happening for me, but
I mean, you know what I mean? Like you can go down. It's like when you first start listening to music and you first start off with like, you'll start with the Beatles and then AC/DC and then Metallica, and then it'll progress and then you go down these weird sub routes of movies, you know what I mean? And you get stuck in these little parts of these subgenres of movies for a while. And I always enjoy that though. I like coming across stuff that I'd never have seen or wouldn't pay attention to that kind of genre or anything.
Yeah, the problem is that I'm having, and I've said this, like I'm going to start diving into this stuff. But then all of a sudden we have some other shows to do. And I'm like, oh shoot, I got to watch this again, just to make sure, I can talk about it better and whatnot. So every time I have a game plan, something else comes up. So it kind of screws that up. But I did watch Horror of Dracula the other night. I find Christopher Lee way better than Bela Lugosi as Dracula, personally. I think
definitely.
He's better.
Nothing really happens in Dracula, man.
I like AD. I've always liked AD. I've always really liked AD. That's the one out of all of them that I watched the most, because I found that that's the one I enjoyed the most when I watched them on first watch. But I don't remember the differences between the rest. And then all of a sudden you got Scars and all this other stuff, and I'm like, I don't remember which one is which. But I have to try to watch those again.
You think though part of it with us too is because like it's hard to go from like watching a movie like Fright Night, where it's really well written and it's got amazing special effects, even for, now, but especially in the 80s. And then to go and look at like Dracula, where like everything is very atmospheric and slow and nothing really happens. And like, you're just supposed to be amazed by him and him turning into a bat. And that's it.
I agree. I think, but for my brain, it's two things. Like for me, Fright Night is to me is a masterpiece. It's like one of the first movies that really got me into horror. I can watch Fright Night, and that is a movie I watch every single year, and I have for as long as I can remember. I never get bored of it. But that's like, that movie's me. Lost Boys is me. Like it's very, I don't want to say rock and roll, but it takes a horror element and there's so much to it. There's some comedy elements. There's great special effects. It's, kind of fast moving. It's got great characters. It's got a good story. But then on the other end of the spectrum, I kind of feel like I also think of horror, and like the Hammer stuff to me is intriguing because I like horror movies that have a specific tone that I can just almost kind of sit back and zone out and not feel like, it's that rock and roll, but it's more of like that peaceful type of horror where it's totally different sides of the fence. British. But I feel like they're both like intriguing to me at the same time. This is where I usually end up, but I do want to dial everything down and go over here for a little while and just kind of like chill and enjoy like the moment, because I feel like my life's always like this, but a movie like a Hammer movie would take me back, chilled out a little bit. It's like some ASMR work, checking things out, like the atmosphere, and it's just more slower paced. And I think that that's a really cool element to a horror movie that we don't get much anymore. So it's crazy, but it's definitely, like you said, part of the genre that I want to dive a little bit deeper into, just because I've seen a lot of this stuff, but not enough to really have a full conversation without forgetting, oh no, that's this one or whatever. But yeah, that was Dracula coming in at number 79. Number 78 I love it, dude. I love this movie. I know you're a huge fan of it.
Mark, yeah, they have been for a long time.
Yeah, I don't talk about him much, but I do love Cronenberg as well, and that's The Brood, which I think in my My opinion is it's one of my favorites of his.
It's such an insane concept for a movie that I'm absolutely amazed that it ever got made. Like, if you think about what The Brood really is, I mean, it's freaking crazy that got made. It's actually a horrifying movie too, though. Like, I mean, in the fact of the offspring that attack everybody, and they're not really they don't have a distinct look, but there's something about it that's like absolutely
little hoodies on and all running through the
horrifying.
kindergarten class and all that
Yep.
stuff. It's a creepy. It's a creepy movie, man, in all aspects. You got the body horror elements to it. You've got that creepy factor to it. It's a good story. It's wild.
Yeah, and there's the scene that they brought up, which I knew they would, because it's a scene everybody references in The Brood, is the scene where Samantha Egger is like cleaning the baby off and all that. And yeah, it's still tough to watch to this day. Like, when I was watching it, I was like, Jesus, because it looks like it's so, like, even whatever they put on there, she had to do that. And she was doing it, like, she was like all in, and I'm just, it had to be like so weird and uncomfortable. But like, aside from that too, the idea of the movie itself is one of the top 10 craziest like ideas for a movie that really, it did work. It worked in a lot of ways, I think.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, when you look at Cronenberg's library, it's pretty incredible, really. And I know you did a full series on your channel over there talking about each one of his flicks and whatnot. And yeah, it's just one of those directors that I think he's got his unique style, and even some of the stuff coming out now, and now his son's involved and all this other stuff. Like, I like a lot of that stuff that's coming out, and that's not normally the type of movie that I would really vibe with, but I'm digging it. Like, I know a lot of people didn't like a lot of the stuff that came out. I thought Infinity Pool was really good. Now who I forget though, who's doing what now?
So him and his son are basically doing the exact same style of movies right now. Brandon Cronenberg. So David Cronenberg did Crimes of the Future, I'm pretty sure. And then Brandon did Infinity Pool, I think.
Okay.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Wasn't there one more that was done with them, or no?
Yeah.
Just those two. What the heck was it?
God, I can't think of it.
There was one that I think his son did, and when I remember it coming out, I was like, "Oh, I got to get this because I'm a big Cronenberg guy. This should be cool." And I didn't like it at all.
Was it Possessor?
No, I'm trying to think, but that's the one I'm thinking of. Like, that's recent, but I don't know. This movie that came out, I think his son did, but it had like the dude from Twilight in it, and he just basically drove around in a car the whole time. Like, I don't know what that was called.
The dude from Robert Pattinson just driving around in a fucking car.
That's like what it felt like, and I was like, "This sucks." Like, what?
I don't know what that was, but I will never watch that.
I'm pretty positive it was his son that did that. I'm pretty positive. Somebody let me know in the chat if this thing was that his son that did this. I didn't like that at all. I was bored to tears watching that movie.
You got me on that one. I have not heard of that.
Unless that was his daughter. Was his daughter I don't know. Somebody did it. Oh, David did it? It was David that did that? Did anybody like that movie? Because I think I might have even shut it off before it ended, because I'm like, he's done nothing. He's just sitting in a car.
Let me tell you something, though. Your description of that movie makes me never, ever want to see it. I'm sure it does a lot of people in this chat.
I mean, unless I turned it off early, because I bought it the day it came out on physical media. I think it was even DVD at the time. And I remember watching it, being so excited, and then being like, this is terrible. And I could have easily turned it off, because I end up doing that a lot of times. But if it had a good twist or it got good, just, let me know in the chat. So he did so he took Pattinson first, and then he did Stewart. So basically we've learned that Cronenberg loves Twilight. That's a new shirt right there.
Dude, how awesome would it be if Cronenberg directed a Twilight movie, if that was like his comeback? You know what I mean? Or that was the comeback of Twilight, was that he directed the next movie.
Oh my God.
I would
like
watch that. Movie. I would watch that movie in a heartbeat. That'd be awesome.
Twilight. That would be so killer. I mean, again, guys, let me know. Am I wrong about that movie being terrible?
It sounds like
But
you're right. If I was to guess.
77. Again, this was a new movie at the time. It was current. I love this movie. It's I don't know what to say. It's an interesting movie because it's like you're in one end, I feel like it's scary and creepy, but at the other end, it's kind of tongue in cheek. So I don't know where a lot of people take this, but so
Yeah, seems like it is.
Okay, good. So I'm not nuts then. But that's Signs from M. Night Shyamalan. At this point, M. Night was the man, and I actually think was he on this at all, Shyamalan? I
You
feel
mean
like I
in
saw
it?
Yeah, like did they? I feel like they showed him. Oh, but maybe they were just doing like little clips, and they showed him like directing or something. I forget.
Maybe, I'm not sure. This is honestly the Shyamalan movie I've seen probably the least for some reason. Like,
Out of all of them, this is the one you saw the least.
well, no, not out of the main three that are like
Okay.
really well known. I'll say that. Like, no, I don't think I've ever seen several of his films, but like, yeah, this is the one out of like Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs. Like, I've seen Signs the least. For some reason, I don't know why. It just came along like at a weird time, right before we started doing the show, I guess. But like, I wasn't really paying attention to it for some reason. So I don't know.
I don't know. People are saying Signs is great. Signs is awful. I'm going to tell you, when I saw this in the theater, it freaked me out. After that scene where he saw the thing walking across the way, it's behind whatever that thing. That scene still will send like a chill up and down my back every time I know it's coming, and I'm waiting, and I'm just like, and I don't know what it was that worked so well. In my head, I always imagined if shit was to ever have gone down, that's how it goes down. Like there'll be a clip on the news or something that something just kind of showed up. You know, not like what we see in like Mars Attacks or any of the bullshit alien movies of like how things are gonna happen. This one to me felt like real. Like I don't know, but I love Signs.
Well, that particular jump scare should be on this list. Because I remember when that movie came out and like people were talking about that, and it was like a huge thing, that particular scene. It's still really well done because it doesn't show a lot. And it's CG, you can definitely tell, but like it's done so quickly that you can't really even make out what it is anyway, which is perfect. That's what you should do. Even if something looks like complete shit, if it's only on there for like a half a second, you're not gonna notice. Like, you know what I mean? And how like just random it is, and the fact that they don't dwell on it like most alien movies would, and it's just kind of just walks by really quick. That's your first kind of glimpse at what it is it's genius. It's back when he was doing like high level kind of stuff that for some reason he's forgot how to do now.
Yeah. 100%. I'm a big fan of Signs. I think that movie is weird as it is, and because you never know how to take his movies, but that one's still creepy. I mean, I think the aliens had a good look. I mean, he was very subtle about how he showed you them too. So like you would see a hand come under the door. You'd see it through like a glass. So like a lot of times you would see it, but like it'd always be like, there would be like a cup of water and you would see the alien through the cup. So it's like it always kind of had a little bit of a fuzziness to it. Or you'd see it through a television screen, like you'd see like the reflection. And I just think that was a really clever way to do it. It made it scary because you never really saw the aliens. I think maybe at the end you might have, but more or less you always saw them like through a shadow, or you really couldn't make them out, but you just knew the shape of them was like, it was really creepy looking. And sometimes you would, if you blinked, you'd miss. Like sometimes you would see one standing there if you kind of looked at a reflection off a window or something like that. And if you missed it, you missed it. Alien movies freak the shit out of me, and they always have. I don't know why, but always those type of movies really creep me out.
Well, then Fire in the Sky must have given you fucking nightmares.
Oh, dude, that was brutal.
Like, that's
yeah.
like,
I have a hard time watching that one.
That's the one for me where it was like, yeah,
And it could be stupid alien ones too. Like other one that was freaky to me, Communion was freaky to me. There was another one that came out not too long ago. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it was a scary movie. It was like, I think this woman opens a door and there's an alien standing over her daughter's bed, and you see like the silhouette of it. I don't remember what it's called, something Skies maybe or something, but there was a lot of those movies that just creep. Even ones that aren't supposed to, like what's it called, Third Kind or whatever, with from Spielberg, like when they show it like in the ship and they show them like standing there or whatever. That was always kind of creepy to me. But yeah, alien movies always kind of freaked me out for sure. But I know Signs is getting a 4K soon. I don't know if people care about that, but I know it is getting one. We had a big Shyamalan talk last episode because we were comparing him to Peele.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
you know,
because we're kind of hoping that Peele doesn't go down the same route of just like dropping off after his first 3 movies, I think. But like, I'm not positive I could name you another director that's had a worse drop off than
Shyamalan. He was like on the top of the world, like a master of horror. Remember after that 3rd movie?
Oh yeah, and it's like, man, since then, he's made a lot more horrible films than he has even like halfway decent ones. I'll say that.
It's crazy. Fourth Kind is kind of freaky.
That's the Mila Jovovich one, right? Like the Fourth Kind.
I don't remember. I think I don't know. It was kind of almost found footagey, right? Or no? Maybe not.
That one was the one that's really kind of weird and abstract, like about what's going on. I can't remember a whole lot about it other than that.
Well, people are kind of talking about some different things. So I think Peele is on a better track, but I said last week that with Peele, he's on a good streak right now. I personally think his first 3 movies, in my opinion, were great. I think his next one is really going to be a telling of what happens here, because if it bombs and it's terrible, then I just feel like when you look at Shyamalan, it was like by Signs, everybody thought he could do no wrong. And then all of a sudden the next one was Village. And that's where things started to get a little shaky. And then it got really bad from there. So I'm praying that the next one Peele does is just as cool. And then
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say The Happening is underrated.
we talk about The Happening quite a bit as well. But he said John Carpenter had a worse. But did he? I mean, John Carpenter, by the time I feel like he started to get a little bad, like, I mean, he had already put out 3/4 of his filmography at that point.
Like, okay.
Like what? Vampires? I mean, I know that wasn't
Vampires
a huge
is
hit,
great.
But I think that's his last good one, right?
Well, okay. So I didn't think, if it wasn't for Amber, what's her name? Amber Heard, The Ward wasn't like absolutely awful, in my opinion. Vampires is really, really good. Now, when you get into shit like Ghosts of Mars, Village of the Damned, what's some?
Don't you say Mouth of Madness?
No, that movie's amazing.
Okay. I know. So I know sometimes people have an issue with Sam Neill. I'm like, don't you say that?
Maybe 3 or 4 movies in there where it was like
about all the
Escape from LA. That's the other one too. Man, I would love to like that movie, but it's a horrible movie. It just is. Like it's so fucking bad. Like, and mostly because it's like cheap. It looks cheap, and the CG makes it look cheaper. It doesn't have a good story, and it's not very good. But there's no way Carpenter had a worse drop off, in my opinion, than Shyamalan.
But I mean, Carpenter put out a lot before he started to even get to Escape from LA.
Yeah, he put out probably 10 films that were amazing before he kind of.
Well, I'm trying to think, like, where did Craven? What was like what kind of got a little iffy for him when Cursed, and then from there, like.
Well, I mean, you look at the early part of his career, he did The Hills Have Eyes 2. I mean, that was kind of a misstep. And then, Shocker is not great.
Oh, dude, I love Shocker.
But I do love that movie too. But then you get into later stuff, it really gets bad with like Cursed, and what was that other one?
The one with the condor or whatever.
The one that we got robbed when we were seeing.
What?
Oh God, what was that?
I know what you're talking about. It's the one. It's his last one, right?
It might have been his last one. Yeah.
It's right here.
Shit.
Um,
Deadly Friend. That's yeah. I mean, I love that movie too, but I could.
help
That's
us
not a
out.
good
What was
one.
his last film called? I love Vampire in Brooklyn. Why does people bash on that one? I love Vampire in Brooklyn.
That movie just got shit on
I love that.
wholesale around that time period.
Oh, My Soul to Take. Thank you, Jackson.
Yeah, that
Jack.
movie's god awful. Scream 4 ain't great either, you know.
Nah, I don't think it is either. But it's funny because we were going to do a show that this is like the missing show was Final Four. Remember?
Oh yeah,
We're
that
gonna
show
do a show.
needs to happen eventually. It really does,
Dude. We got merch printed for it. Remember? I have a shirt, a Final Four shirt. It was we were going to talk about the final movies. We are going to compare them and rank them with who was it? Carpenter, Craven,
Romero, and
Hooper, right?
Yep. And that would be really hard because all 4 of those movies suck. They're not good. So yeah,
Conrad just said my shit to take.
My shit to take is great.
So yeah, thank you guys. Everybody's chiming in. Soul to take. But yeah. Anyway, it was we talked about Shyamalan, and then it got boiled over into Carpenter and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I love talking about all this stuff and these people's filmographies and whatnot. And I'm hoping Jordan Peele stays on a good track. And I'm going to tell you right now, when we were doing that Final Four show, it never went through. I don't know why, but that Hooper film, that last one, Jing or whatever it was called, it was I could barely watch it, man.
I've never seen it. I've got to watch it at some point. Yeah.
I mean, My Soul to Take looks compared to that was like he killed it. And then what was Romero's?
Yeah. Romero's was Survival of the Dead.
Survival. Okay.
Dude, that's tough for me to beat in terms
What's
of
the one that keeps coming out? What's the one that had the steel book? Was that Survival or something else?
Diary. I think that was
everybody
Diary
keeps buying that. Yeah.
They're both fucking shit awful. I don't know why people are trying to act like Diary of the Dead's a masterpiece.
I was shocked too because I never liked Diary at all, but it seems like it's getting like a new life, But it seems like that's what happens now and again. Sometimes these movies that were shit on all of a sudden become like the thing to like, I guess.
Yep. I don't know. I would never pick that movie for anything.
No. But this is weird. Number 76, Evil Dead.
There's no damn way that Evil Dead. See, this kills me because I think this was lower on that Shudder list too. Let me look it up. But like that movie is not only is it fucking terrifying the first time you see it, but it's one of the most influential horror films ever made. It's probably the most influential horror film of like the modern era for like, filming and things like that. Or at least one of the most influential ones. Where is it on this? Is it not on the Shudder list? No, it's 77 on the Shudder list. So it's like, man, listen.
so it went backwards. It went backwards.
I don't know if it's the budget. If it's that people like when they make these lists, they're like, oh, it looks like, or here's what's funny though. The Shudder one, when they're talking about the tree scene, I'll just call it that. Mm-hmm. They absolutely are like, God, that's appalling. When they talk about it in this one, it's like, oh, that's the best shit ever. Like, what other movie are you going to see that in? That's the difference between 2004 and like now. Yeah. Like nobody had a problem with it.
Yeah, Ross like, oh man, I wish I could have did that in Cabin Fever.
Yeah. Nobody was bitching. They were all just like, oh man, that was like an awesome scene, which is how people used to think. And that's actually the reality of the situation is that like, that's a scene you'll never forget. Like when you see it, it's a scene that's, stood the test of time. It's just, I just hate the way it's gotten with this right now. But yeah.
You can say what you want about Evil Dead and being low budget and stuff, but man, imagine seeing Evil Dead when it first came out. When I saw this as a teenager, it was scary to me. Like Evil Dead was one of the first, when I was really getting into horror, that was one of the first movies I watched. And I mean, it was freaky. I mean, it was cool at the same time because of all the effects and stuff, but the thing in the basement, her down there, and then the dude, what was the blonde guy's name when he turned and then he's up on the thing?
Oh, Scotty.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it worked, man. It was and the tree scene and everything else. Like, I mean, say what you want about the budget, and they cleaned it up for part 2, but
Oh,
like
part 2. Okay. Yeah.
Evil Dead to I
Can't
mean
remember
that
any
that
characters' names in part 2 except for Ash. For some reason, I can remember all of them in part 1.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm actually kind of surprised it's up here and on the Shutter list, all things considered, because I don't think that they even talk about the sequels at all in Shutter list.
No. No.
So the fact that
Um,
that's lumped down here, I mean, I'm shocked. What next time they're gonna do it, they're gonna be like, what's the new Evil Dead called?
Oh God, Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah, that's gonna be like up there now. Evil
God, I
Dead
hope
Rise.
not. But man, like
But
when I saw this, I was just like, that's absolutely like ridiculous. Like that was the only one really on this list, or of this, of these picks anyway, where I was like, there's that should be way, way higher. Like there's a handful of movies I could point to and be like, this movie like revolutionized horror films, and that's one of them. Like, there's no question in my mind. Like, and it's got like a handful of scenes in it that are absolutely terrifying, even to this day.
mhm.
I don't know. I just don't agree with
I
that
mean,
at all.
there's gonna be movies on that we talk about tonight that you're gonna be like, what? Evil Dead's
Mhm.
behind these ones?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
and
yeah.
you can even say, from any angle, right? It's not just because we like it and we're horror fans, but I mean, I'm telling you, there's a lot other movies in here that I think people were generally afraid of than what we're gonna see coming up on these next couple. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was 77, and Johnny says top 20 for him. I mean, I'm not saying it's gotta be in the top 20, but it's gotta be higher than this. And then somebody says, who somebody just put that Maya says Raimi actually regrets doing the tree scene. Now,
Yeah.
I get it, but again, it's a
Well,
horror movie. I mean,
James
it's things
Cameron
like that
regrets
should happen.
doing violence and Terminator and shit now. It's like, I think that's just something you kind of have to say now. We're good people. Like, listen, we did this stuff back in the 80s. 80s were a crazy time. You know what I mean? Like, everybody was doing drugs and stuff. We regret it now. Like, we're good people. Please,
Oh
like,
my god,
don't
it's
cancel
funny. I
us.
thought about that today and I almost recorded it. So I've been watching the Menendez show. Have you
Oh,
seen it
yeah.
yet?
Yeah.
There's
The
like the
monsters. Yeah.
documentary or whatever. I've been watching it, and there's a part where they're telling their psychiatrist or whatever about what they've done and how they did it, and I think it's a psychiatrist or somebody, and all of a sudden they were talking about how bad they were, but they were like, "Say it with me, you're good people." Say it with
Oh,
me. He's
yeah.
like, "We're
Yeah, I
good
remember.
people. We're good people."
Yeah.
And they kept saying it. And I wanted to record it because I'm like, "Oh my god, this is so funny!" Because they're talking
It's,
about all the heinous shit they did, but then they're like, "But we're still good people." Say
he's
it with
like,
me now.
say it. He makes the psychiatrist tell him that. Like,
I'm a good person. I'm still a good person. And it reminded me of like where we are now in society and like with the horror movie community and the talking heads and all that stuff when they're discussing all these horror movies that everybody secretly loves, but they can't say that they love it, in
yeah,
public.
everybody has
thing.
to apologize for everything they like now. If it's even remotely, like graphic or anything, you got to apologize for it. Ah,
That is so funny. I mean, it's a movie, guys. It's not supposed to be reality. It's not supposed to be like, yeah, I wish the woods would do this to this girl or whatever. Like this, it's just it's supposed to be fucking bonkers.
yeah, it's not like I spit on your grave or anything. You know what I mean? Like it's a fucking
Right.
tree. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen. Like, maybe
People are afraid to
separate.
go in the woods now. Like, oh. Oh, that's a big tree over there. I better go this way. I'm gonna size that one.
Yeah, you're going to take that completely literally. Like, stay away from them trees.
What up, Bronson? I don't
Uh,
want to see any Terrifier 3 stuff. I mean, I don't know if allegedly he says.
yeah,
I've stayed away from all Terrifier 3 because you guys are gonna remember it's people have seen it already. I don't want to know a thing, but this is something that they've been talking about is that are they gonna kill kids or not? Like that's been talked about since the trailer. Do they do it? I don't know. I'm trying not to look at any Terrifier 3 stuff. And I'll see when I see it. But I do hear that it's whatever they do, it's pretty brutal to a point
Same.
that I don't know how this movie it's strange because we're in such a weird, it's almost like we're in a transition. Like in some elements, we can't do X, Y, and Z, but then a movie like this comes out and everybody's screaming for the fences saying like, oh, finally a movie like this comes out. Like, where are we here?
Well, I
Like
think
it's the same people that are cheering for Terrifier that are the ones saying we don't like this. We're good people. Like where's the line? I don't understand.
I think that movie is the natural like backlash to all this bullshit. I really do. I think it's like a movie where everybody goes to it and they're just like, that's exactly like what we want. In other words, like some director where you don't feel safe, which does not exist anymore, by the way. Like you don't know what that guy's going to do. We don't know what he's going to do in this movie, and you don't feel safe like going into that movie, which is really missing from like modern kind of film, like horror films especially. So I'm all for it. I don't want to see. I don't want to know what happens. Like I'm not for graphic scenes of that we're talking about, especially. But I mean, I am for somebody pushing the envelope and trying to do something that's like different.
I agree with you totally. And I'm excited to see it. Am I the biggest Terrifier fan? No, but I can respect what they're trying to do, and maybe that's going to change the mindset of some people. But what I just find funny is the same people, the big wigs of the horror community that are championing this movie are the same people that were on the Shudder show saying we're still good people. Like it's the same group of people. So it's like I don't know what's supposed to be okay.
Here's the difference, though, I think, Garrett. It's popular. So that trumps everything. Yeah, that trumps all of your like morals and everything. If something's popular, you got to fucking go along with it. Otherwise, like what kind of
And that's exactly what I think it is, and it's sad to be honest because it's on the cover of Fangoria, so everybody who works for Fangoria are going to be like Terrifier is the best, but they're not putting David Hess on the cover of Fangoria either. You know what I mean? So
no,
like
and they're
now
shitting
they can
all
go
over
back
that movie,
and they can be like, oh, we don't want to talk about that. But that's what's interesting is I don't know really where the line is. So I'm more or less the person like my ways. It's kind of like, regardless, I'm going to be on the same playing field no matter what. So if you're going to champion this movie, then you could be okay championing with a movie of similar vein that came out 30, 40 years ago. Like, why would it have to be any different? Some movies I like, I may go into Terrifier and be like, it was too much for what I like. That's not the type of movie I would care to watch again. But who knows?
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
I hate Rob Zombie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just do. I'm just going to be honest. I'm just going to make sure that everybody knows that. I don't hate him. That's a bit of it, but I think that like his style is really just ridiculous in a lot of movies that he's tried to do. That being said, he's got one of the best quotes I've ever heard where like he was talking to Bill Moseley in The Devil's Rejects, where he's getting ready to do that hotel scene where he's got to go all in with the gun and all that
stuff. Oh my God. That's a hard scene to watch, to be honest.
And Bill Moseley's like, I don't want to do this, man. And like Rob Zombie says something to the effect of, art isn't safe. And that's kind of what got him to kind of go into that and do it. And I think that's true. Like if you're going to make something, especially like a horror film, it shouldn't feel safe. Like why would you want to make the same thing over and over again? You should go in there trying to push boundaries, show people something they've never seen, like do something that's never been done. Like do something,
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that our reason, like, I don't follow, we have different opinions when it comes to Rob Zombie for sure. I don't think he's,
that's a whole other show,
that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But do you think Rob Zombie still wants to make movies like that? And because of the way the world is now, that's why he did something like The Munsters and hasn't done anything of horror since these last X amount of years where like, maybe he's just like, I can't do what I want to do anymore without it being a big issue and then affect me in other parts of my life or whatever, like my music. And like, do you think that he's just like, I don't want to play it safe. I don't want to change how I do things. And because I'm going to offend X, Y, and Z. I mean, the whole thing is crazy. Like who just got attacked? Somebody just did something and Burton's getting a little bit attacked with because of Beetlejuice and the color of the cast in most of his movies. Like he's getting a lot of attack on that. So now what's going to happen? Is he going to change things on his next flick?
Why?
Because they're saying that Beetlejuice is too prominently white. So there's a whole thing on him, and then they go back and they said, well, he's been doing this for years because look at this movie, and it's just one of those things where it's like it doesn't need to be a certain way. Like, I mean, if you want to be nitpicky, Jenna Ortega, I mean, she's not. I mean, again, I don't know, but it's like these are the type of things where it's like, why are we nitpicking like this?
Well, I don't know, especially on shit like that. Like, you're talking about a guy that makes like, fantasy movies like in Pee-wee's Big Adventure and stuff, and you're like, his cast is not diverse enough. It's like,
well, that's the thing. Like, but should it be? Like, does it need to be? Because I don't go see Jordan Peele movies and feel offended by his cast. I don't at all.
I would almost 100% bet that the last thing on that dude's mind is the diversity. In terms of, he probably doesn't even consider that. He's probably like,
he doesn't.
I mean, he's trying to make fantastical kind of like worlds and stuff. He's not sitting around being like, we need to have like A, B, or C in this film.
Right. He's worrying about how much, like 35 bomb outfits or whatever. Like, he's not, you know what I mean? But that's the thing. But that's unfortunate, right? And the same thing happened to Cobra Kai when it came out. The same thing when Cobra Kai came out, there was a whole problem. And then all of a sudden, when you notice season 3, they started adding different characters in to kind of try to make it more diversify the cast because they were getting attacked online for it. So, I mean, that's a thing, but you just wonder if, Rob Zombie's a little bit like, there's just too much of this, they're going to nitpick everything I do. I'm just going to stay away. I don't know.
You're right. I think now that part about it, I think could be a part of the Rob Zombie thing where he's like, probably at this point after the Munsters, everybody like shit on that movie. And he's just probably like, man, why I don't need to do this. I guess is my guess about kind of how he probably thinks about it is like, I don't need to come out with these, and then just everybody just destroy me every single time. He's got the kind of money where he could just go away and that be it. But on the opposite side of that, I think right now is the exact time he needs to come back and try to make a movie.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do you think he's looking at this Terrifier thing and being like, okay, let's champion this? Because then if I can come in and this is where the genre's turning, like more people are interested in like these pushing the boundaries on some of these movies. And maybe I can kind of swing in and it's like, oh, the return to horror, and I can kind of push the buttons a little bit. I mean, that would be the smart thing. Maybe do one more, see what the hell happens. I mean, his brother's doing some good work right now too. He's on his third movie. I liked Allegoria. I thought that was really good. I thought Bury the Bride was good. And this is his third movie, and it's actually also sharing the cover with Terrifier on Fangoria. So it seems like there's some eyeballs on it. And I'm excited to check that one out too. But yeah, I mean, there's people, up and coming that are pushing the limits a little bit, which I think is good for the genre because they played it very safe for very long. And I think Blumhouse is a reason why they've kind of played it a little bit safe because they were everything for so long. And it's funny because when I went to Silver Scream Con, we left and my buddy and I grabbed some food and they were walking over to like where the music was playing and stuff. And we sat on a bench. We were like finishing our food. And who walks by us with his little backpack on walking? It's friggin' Damien Leone. Just looks like a regular dude. He's just got his backpack on all by himself, just walking the streets of Boston or whatever. Like, I don't know if he was going to his hotel or going to grab a sandwich or whatever, but I'm just like, wonder what's going on in that guy's head. You know what I mean? Because like they come up with the shit he has. He's just some regular guy. He doesn't look like a Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie, you look and you're like, okay, this guy's extreme. Like even Eli Roth back in the day, he had the look, he had the hair and all. Damien Leone just looks like a regular dude that you would live next door to.
Well, that's the way that they all used to. I mean, all the directors you look at like Romero or Craven. Like Craven didn't look like a guy that would come up with that shit.
No, not Craven. Romero though. Romero looked like he was an interesting dude inside. Like he didn't look like he would have been like, but at the same time, there was something about Romero where he just, to me, he always felt like like very nerdy in a sense where like he probably had some cool creative ideas in the head. Craven looked like, somebody's uncle or whatever.
He did. And so did like Hooper. Hooper just looks like some drunk uncle that you have or something. Like he doesn't look like anybody that would do anything really,
Cunningham as well. I just saw him the other day. He looked like just a little nice old man,
these guys did, they're not like the Rob Zombies that were like they wore that on the outside as like a badge.
Right.
They were just, direct.
Burton looks like he has some weird shit going on in his head. You know what though? You know who else is Flanagan looks like just a regular dude.
Flanagan looks like a history teacher or something.
Yeah, he looks just like when they show his picture a lot of times, I'm like, oh, that was Flanagan? I didn't know. Like when I was trying to picture what he looked like for a long time, I was like, that's interesting.
He absolutely looks like just a regular guy. I can't read that comment, but that's killer.
Remember who was the guy that used to come in? The CK guy? Where's he been? What was the CK?
Oh,
The Akeem
God.
one?
Oh yeah, the woke, the woke creepy Kentuckian. Yeah, I miss the woke creepy Kentuckian. Ah,
Oh my god, that's too funny. But yeah, we've been ranting about the genre. Let me see.
where are we even at? I don't even know. 75, I guess. Oh,
Jackson says, which comment was funny? I don't know. Is it gone now? Oh no,
no,
it's up there.
still
Jinx
there.
is
It's
up there.
amazing.
Jinx looks like it's a female too, but who knows?
I wouldn't bet on that. Knowing our crowd.
What I think last time I looked at it, I have like 19% female viewers.
I think
What
you
did
have
you
10 times more. Ours is
guys
like
have, like-
1.9.
Oh my god, it's too funny. All right, so we just got done talking about Evil Dead, and we went on a tangent. We said an hour show. This is gonna be over 90 minutes. All right, we are at number 75, and it's Candyman. I mean, I get it. I can see that being here.
Needs to be on the list, and also it's appropriately placed, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good movie. It deserves to be on this list for sure. I think this is probably a pretty fine place for it. I know there's other people out there that probably like Candyman a lot more than maybe you and I do. I mean, I like it. It's not one of my top 20 favorites, but I think it's a good, solid movie.
No.
It's, it's definitely one that everybody knows. It's got a unique concept and whatnot.
Trying to figure out where it was on Shudder's list. Oh, it was 79 on Shudder's list. So I think all these are around the same.
Yeah. Do you think they probably used this list to kind of get a grasp on some of theirs?
Probably. I'm betting that they did like at least refer to this for some of these. Yeah.
How do you feel about this? Jackson Jack said, I should do a Thursday night show called Getting Fit with the Pit, and I like put you guys through like workouts and stuff.
That would be a great show.
He's got his headband on, like sweating. He's doing like squats.
Oh, shit.
All right, 300 more air squats. Let's go.
Candyman is too woke. Not that Candyman.
The new one is.
Yeah, I don't think they're talking about that one in this. They're talking about the old one.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. When Candyman came out, people were like, "Oh, it's really cool. It's different." You had a lot of like those urban horror movies that were coming out around this time, like Tales from the Hood and Candyman and People Under the Stairs and all these other movies. But everybody was excited for those because it was just a different like look at horror. Nobody was coming out and being like, "How dare that cast look like that?" You know what I mean? It was just wild. It was like it was accepted everywhere, I thought. I love that little segue of the 90s where a lot of those movies are coming out.
There's some terrifying stuff in that movie too. The scene with the kid in the bathroom and all that. Do you remember that scene that I'm talking about from Candyman? Like,
of course,
that fucked me up when I watched it like back in the day. Really, really bad. And then, the bee scene and all that, but also the music in that movie is great. The little like piano part.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that was like one of the best pieces of music that for any like horror score. And then the whole thing with her being like in a trance whenever he comes around, something to that effect, It's just it is a really like, it's almost like Hellraiser in the sense like it exists in another world almost. When you watch it, you're like, it doesn't look like it's from this world.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like
it was different. I can respect a movie that comes out that's a very different type of movie than we're used to, and I think Candyman was pretty original, which I definitely can respect. And Dirk says he couldn't stand the new one. I was not a fan of the new one either. I thought the new one had promise until I watched it and then realized it was like there was so much. I don't know. I think it was like there was so much like, hey, we're gonna sneak this in because we want you to think like we do, kind of thing, that I was like, dude, this is not why I'm here. Like,
yeah,
I'm not here to like at the end of this to be like, you're right, I hate policemen. Like, that's not why I wanted to watch this movie. And I hate when they put social commentaries in a lot of it. And I know they've been doing it for years and forever, but sometimes it feels like it's a lot more prominent than we may have thought watching older movies or whatever. You could even say this Candyman, like there was some of that in there, but it wasn't in your face. It wasn't.
Well, back then social commentary was smart. Now it's just like it's in there just for the sake of being. It's
It's almost like they write the social commentary down and then try to make the movie afterwards. Like, okay, let's build a movie that surrounds these areas here, and that's where I think it really fails.
I mean, I just remember watching it and being like, almost exactly what you said. I'm like, what? Like, that's not why you watch a movie like that. Like, you don't go to a film like that for that kind of commentary. Like, I was thinking it was going to be, a logical extension of that mythos that was in the original Candyman, which was great. His ability to travel back and forth in between, like, almost like time and, kind of seek this woman out, and the romantic relationship between the two of them, and the fact that he had all that was completely kind of gone from that remake or whatever the hell that was, reimagining.
No, it was. I think there was a lot to it that I think there was something there that could have worked, but like we said, they decided to make other things front and center than what could have been. And it's unfortunate because I feel like when I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, this could actually be okay. But yeah, didn't care for the new one either. But I've only seen it once in the theater. I haven't seen it since. But number 74 is an interesting one here.
Oh shit. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really agree with this.
It's a wackadoo.
The Chocolate Factory, like
the original Willy Wonka, and mostly for the boat ride scene, which is what they spend the majority of time talking about. Like, which is a 2-minute scene or something in there that, like,
I mean, it was weird, but I mean, was it giving kids nightmares? I don't remember.
Probably at that in the 70s, but I mean, I don't know. It is very odd to put that on this list. Like, it's an iconic scene in that film, but does it need to be on a horror or a scariest movie moments list? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, but that's why they didn't say horror, right? So they could sneak it in for a scary movie moment. I love Willy Wonka. I think it's a fantastic movie. To me, it's always been a favorite. But I don't know. I just never would have put on this list. I mean, I get it. They said Ronald Dahl had some freaky books, and I agree. I think if it's not on here, it should be. I would rather see Witches on this list than see Willy Wonka. I think Witches had some pretty creepy moments, like during the transformation scenes and whatnot. But I don't know if that's end up on the list. But they end up showing. I think they talk about Witches briefly, just because of they wanted to show that the author had done a lot of creepy books and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Again, everybody's saying it's an amazing movie, but doesn't belong on the list. That's true. So they're telling us that Willy Wonka is scarier than Evil Dead. Confirmed. Correct. That's basically
confirm that.
That's actually
really? Okay.
That's a shirt. Willy Wonka is scarier than Evil Dead. That's the new shirt.
Confirmed. It's not in the spirit of the list. That's what I would say. Like, I don't think that this list was made with that kind of thing in mind. Just to me, it wasn't.
But again, Mayor, you're right. Like, it could be a gateway horror. It could be a gateway into horror movies. I agree with that, and that's I respect that. I think that I love movies that can do that. Even if there's just one scene, even if it's just a movie with a little bit of an edge to it that could be considered a little bit of a scary aspect. I like that stuff. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Hit the likes.
If that's the case, then Pee-wee's Big Adventure could also be on the list for the large
100%. 100%. It's not going to be, but I mean, I agree with you. If this can be on there, I mean, Large Marge scared. If you're our age, Large Marge scared all of us as kids. And what do you say?
Man, it's just you gotta love the people. The people.
You guys are wild.
The people.
We're good people still.
What's going on?
Well, let's move on. 73. 73 is the movie on this list that I bought after I saw this list. I had never heard of it before. I had bought it after I I would say it. I don't know. I bought it, I guess, but then I also now I have the Criterion of this, so I must have bought it again at some point. I like it. I mean, but again, going back and looking at some of the things we've seen already on this list and have this all the way at 73, to me, just I don't know. And that's a movie called Blood Simple, which I bet a lot of people probably haven't seen.
The Coen brothers' first film. Yeah. I think I've seen this movie one time. And this is one you're right. Like, I would like to go back and watch this again because Mark brought it up recently and says like it's his favorite Coen brothers film. And I'm like, really? Like, out of all the shit like they've done, like, I mean, they've done some amazing films. Like, it's better than Raising Arizona. It's better than, like, you know, No Country for Old Men. Like, I've got to go back and watch this movie again to see. So yeah, I mean, I don't remember a whole lot about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think out of this whole list of all these that we're talking about, this is the one that I don't think most people have probably seen, because I only saw this because of this thing that came out back in 2004. But you're like you said, I think I've only seen this movie maybe twice in my life, and it was when I bought it for the first time, and then I bought that Criterion Blu-ray, and that's it. But I see a lot of people in here, and this is a little off topic, but talking about gateway horror, and that's such a huge thing for me that I've been talking about this for a couple months, but now it being October, I really just got to put a date on it. I asked a couple people to join me on a big stream talking about gateway horror, things like movies, shows, toys, cartoons, books, things that, you know, got them into horror. I mean, it could have been a kid's show that had some creepy elements to it. It could have been whatever, but I saw a lot of people bringing these things up. And if you guys like that stuff, definitely keep your eyes and ears open on the channel, because we're going to do a show. And, you know, Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Those were huge for me. This is actually a good one. And I don't know, like, what you call these. Like, I've heard the word kinder trauma get thrown around, which I think is a pretty cool name, right? Like, I kind of find that to be a cool name. But I see a lot of people say that, oh, kinder trauma, it's things that scared you as a kid or whatever. This is a good one because you're right, but I haven't seen people talk about this before. The fake Jessica Rabbit that chases Bob Hoskins around at the end of is serious shit. Remember that? Like that.
Yep.
She's running after him. I always remember when she hits the wall, her boobs go like sideways.
That movie really is like one of those ones that could be a gateway too, just for the ending and everything too. And he, you know, he's melting all the yeah. I mean, that's another example of that.
What a great character though he played. When he got flattened out, he came up and he was like, and he's like, not
remember
just
me.
Yeah, his eyes got the daggers. When I kill your mother. Yeah. So I mean, I do think Roger Rabbit is not talked about enough for being a freaky cartoon for kids. But yeah, if you guys, I see people talking about different things like that. So if you like that stuff, definitely keep your eyes on the channel because it's coming. But yeah, I would say 100%. It's more of a, I think Blood Simple, you know, it's not horror, but, you know, it's got elements for sure. L.A. Jill says the Bible got him into horror.
Jesus,
I don't know if anybody's going to bring the Bible to the table, but you break it out.
Fucking old school right there. He's like, yeah, Old Testament.
Yep. Yeah, the Old Testament. So funny. Jesus was the first zombie.
Fuck. This chat's completely derailed.
But guys, before we get into the last couple, there's almost 200 people in here right now. Make sure you hit the like buttons on the show. It's a free and easy way to support the channel. You don't have to do anything, just hit the button. If you want to do more work, you can go to each channel and subscribe and like the same video if you want to do a little extra work. So again, you can find me at Born to Be Rad on YouTube. You can find Uncle Bill over at DEADPIT Radio on YouTube. So if you like what we have to say here and you want to continue watching this series, make sure you're subscribed to both channels and make sure those notifications are on because we do have a lot of people that are watching with you. So I appreciate that. Wait. Oh, God. L.A. Jill's actually written a script. Should pitch that to Mel Gibson. Let's see what he says. That should be on the list, right?
Davy's exactly right about this though. The making of the Michael Jackson Thriller in and of itself is another one that got like people really interested in horror around that time period. That's a big gateway one too. I mean, it's not exactly in the spirit of what you're talking about, I don't think, but like,
I mean, anything really works. I mean, anything that either scared you or got you interested, right? Like I've talked about this before, that it could even go back to even with me with Ghostbusters and the toys and, you know, loving the monsters and the different things that I remember my son was just saying the other day, like, oh, they're going to do show and tell. I said, you know what I remember bringing for show and tell was that Ghostbuster toy called Tombstone Tackle. It was like a football guy. And when you flipped him around and opened his back, it had like a football tongue with teeth. I brought him to show and tell when I was in like first grade, I remember. And I still remember as clear as day, that was what I brought. And I was so excited to show the class. And I can remember the teacher kind of looking at me like, because it's like, I'm like showing how the thing's biting down with these teeth. But again, anything like that, I think you know, that drew you into that side of scary. And the Crestwood books, I used to check those out of my school library in elementary school, all those Crestwood books, the Dracula, King Kong, Creature, all those things. There's another book called Miss Nelson is Missing. I used to love that book. It was about a substitute teacher that was like called Viola Swamp, and she was like this witch looking lady. I loved that book. So I think there was always things in my life.
Scary Stories Tell the Dark is the one for me that, like, I mean, my cousin read that to me when I was probably 5 or 6, something like that. And like, just love the dark humor mixed with the horror. Even when I was a kid at that age, like I love that and love the stories in it. Yeah. I just got this going.
I can't.
Yep, that'll do it.
Metal Mark. I can't.
Yep.
The Board Game Nightmare. That was another good one. That guy on the screen, Scooby-Doo. You could even say that too.
Don't tell that whole story, Mark, please.
Oh my God.
Where we
this
at?
next one for me is this was a little bit of a shock to me, just based on like where this is, and we've already seen Poltergeist and Evil Dead, and that was, I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, at 72. Is it them? Is that where is that was? And then I'm looking and I'm like, well, I could see that. I don't know. This was weird to me.
Well, it's weird to me because it's a science fiction movie. Totally, it's not a horror film. It's one of those nuclear, you know, bomb movies that were made. I guess it was in the 50s or 60s. Giant ants. So it's like, number one, I've never seen it. Number two, I just don't like movies like that. Like, there's been one movie like that I actually enjoyed.
Reptilicus.
I wish Food of the Gods. Food of the Gods is great, but Food of the Gods is not like a nuclear weapon. It's more of like a, you know, chemical when nature kind of attacks because of pesticides and things like that they're using. That is a great movie though. Food of the Gods is way underrated, man. But no, I would not put them on this list.
Not even, I wouldn't put it on any of this list, not even at number 100.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying I don't see anything about it that would be considered scary. I mean, I would have put the Tingler on this thing before I put
exactly, because what the fuck is scary about giant ants? There's just not anything.
Yeah, I was kind of like I think I had to even like rewind it a little bit because I'm like, is this what they're saying right now? So that's why when I asked you, I was like unsure.
They made one too in the 70s, like Empire of the Ants or something like that. I think that just came out from Kino, which was like, I don't care about those kind of
it's crazy. I have a steel book of that over here.
Oh, really?
Empire of the Ants steel book. But it's like it's an old DVD one. I mean, I don't know. I probably have seen it once. God, you guys are in the chat going nuts over here.
Yep.
Number 71 is Sixth Sense, which I get it. Sixth Sense. So we basically got.
I'm sorry, man. Some of these comments are absolutely killing me. Like, I'll catch up to them, and it's just like, we can't post any of them, but they're great.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people talk about the Disney movies. Oh yeah, Watcher in the Woods, Something Wicked This Way Comes. These were great. Escape from Witch Mountain. What's the one you like there? Halloween Town. Oh
yeah, Halloween Town is not. Well, there's a bunch of them like that. I like The Worst Witch, Halloween Town. You mentioned Hocus Pocus already. what's another one around that?
Return to
same-
Oz.
Return to Oz. Teen Wolf.
Mhm.
Teen Wolf is not really a horror film at all, but I mean, it's got that element to it.
Sure.
As does all those movies that did that, like My Best Friend's a Vampire and fucking,
Sure. I mean, and anything that brings
My
the monsters
Boyfriend's
in,
Back.
I think. I mean, I was as a kid, Godzilla was a huge thing for me. You know, that was a huge thing. I got all those things. I was obsessed with Godzilla, and I mean, you could look at that as a gateway into more of the horror genre.
The ultimate one for me, though, is the Monster Squad, because it's technically a horror film.
Mhm.
It's got all the Universal monsters in it, but it's like not. It's like a kids film, really.
Mhm.
I mean, it's more like the Goonies than it is,
Mhm.
anything else.
But 71 is Sixth Sense, which it belongs here. But it's funny because at this point, Shyamalan had only had 3 movies, and his 2 horror movies made this list right here: Signs and Sixth Sense. So
Yeah.
he was already plopped way into this 100 thing as his, after 3 movies. So he was right then and there. But like you said, Sixth Sense is fun. I was tricked. I think everybody was pretty much tricked, and it was a pretty shocking movie at the time.
I can't do this, man.
You guys are killing me.
Oh my god.
That was the first movie. I don't know. I could give you the answer, but you're out of control.
Oh, the Sixth
guys are
Sense,
wild.
though. It's about the puke scene, the girl in the tent scene. That's
Mhm.
what they really focus on the most in this.
Mhm.
Which is a great jump scare in that movie, and it's a great jump scare because of the way that it's there. He is, there he is. There's no way he wasn't making.
There he is.
I'm in Ukraine fighting. I don't have time to talk about Hocus Pocus. Jesus. That's the best recurring character we've had, man. For some reason, that's just the best. Yeah, the way it's filmed, though, that scene where like it's completely misleading because it shows you like the part of the tent coming open and then like comes down to where it shows like the girl's like there in the tent already, which is really, really good camera work.
Mhm. And you had Donnie Wahlberg in it. New Kids,
Yeah,
baby.
that's right. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. He's an icon of horror. Between that and Saw, I mean, he was killing the horror game, back then. He's killing it. And we've got one more, which number 70. I love this film. I actually am considering upgrading it to 4K, and I've got it in my Amazon cart right now. I have the Blu-ray from Shout Factory. This had a Blu-ray from Shout Factory before Scream Factory even existed. So the only reason I was thinking about upgrading is that was a long ass time ago. And that is Stepfather, which I think is a freaking cool movie, man.
Yeah, it's got one of the best, creepiest openings of any horror film, where he's already like killed the whole family. He's like standing in the mirror and like, shaving. I think he's shaving and all that stuff, like to get ready for like moving on to the next family. And then there's the scene where he's freaking out. It's the tagline of the movie, but the scene where he's freaking out, because something happened with his new family. And like he's like, wait, he's like, who am I here? Like he has to figure out like which character he's playing.
Yeah, I love that. He couldn't figure out like who he was supposed to be because he had like multiple girlfriends and wives and stuff. So he was like, wait, who am I? That was great for sure. Cool movie. And then he had that scene was that the scene in the basement where he was like flipping out or something, and then she caught him. But that might have been a different freak out.
I think that's a different freak out scene.
Yeah, I think the Who Am I here is like when he's like in the kitchen or something, I think.
Yeah, but the scene in the basement's amazing too, because like they were saying, like he switches on a dime. Like when he sees her, he's walking through there doing the Jack Nicholson thing where he's walking down the hallway, basically just kicking shit over, and he's just like, shit, we're gonna get this family together, motherfucking like. And then like she walks in, he's like, hi, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Like a complete like, yeah.
It does feel like a little bit of a made-for-TV movie. Something about the Stepfather does. It does feel like that.
Yeah. It might be the setting, the suburban setting. That's what a lot of those TV movies had, that same kind of setting too.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if that was number 70. Now, I didn't write down 69 on here. Do you have that one?
You know, you wrote down 69. Yeah.
I don't want to write
69.
that down.
69 is one that I think probably could have been a little bit higher on this list, but whatever. It's Reanimator.
Oh yeah, I did see that one. 100%. 100%.
I mean, I don't know what else to say about Reanimator. Like, everything in that movie is memorable and amazing.
Reanimator to me, and I'm sure you feel the same way. I feel the same way about Phantasm. Reanimator and Phantasm are popular within people deep in the community, but I still don't think those two movies are respected enough for how freaking great they both are. Like, you don't see a lot of like merch of either of those movies, or you don't see a lot of stuff for Reanimator. You don't see a lot of stuff for Phantasm come out. I mean, Anchor Bay treated them right and stuff, but I mean, I'm just saying like more of like the mainstream, I guess. But
well, one of the biggest problems with Reanimator to me is it came out in 1985, which that year is jam packed with like classic horror films. So I just feel like it gets lost a lot of times. And that you got 85, you got like Return of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, like friggin' Jesus Christ. There's like 20 more that I can't think of off the top of my head, but like that year was just crazy for horror films, and Reanimator should be in conversations more than it is, as is Phantasm. I don't know what the deal is with Phantasm. I've never been able to figure that out. Like, why that movie isn't like one of the more popular movies. It should be up there with like Suspiria and other movies like that in terms of the way that people talk about it, but they don't.
I agree. I think both of those are like, in my head, horror classics. Top tier, kind of almost perfect horror movies to me. I don't know what to say about anything like you said about Reanimator. It's just great. I mean, there's scenes in this movie that are freaking freaky, man. That head scene, I mean, that's still a hard scene to watch now.
That's another funny thing about like watching this now. They show that scene, man. Like, all they did was like blur out like the boobs, but they showed the entire scene. This was on cable, and everybody was like, "Oh, that scene was fucking amazing back then. Like, that was groundbreaking." Nowadays, if you showed that scene, people's heads would explode. Like, it wouldn't. There's no way you could do that.
Wait a minute. Davey says Trick or Treat Studios did the Hooded Mutant mask this year, and I slept on and sold out. They are gone. I didn't even know if they were. I've been keeping my eyes on that. Them and the Lost Boys ones. I didn't even think they've been up for order yet. I don't think I would have missed those. I wanted those cloaked mini monsters for sure. But correct me if I'm wrong. Did they come and go, or they have not come out yet? Because I don't think the Lost Boys have been released yet at all for pre-order. But yeah, let me know, because I did want those too. That's wild. But yeah, I mean, that's our list, guys, for this week. We talked a long time. I mean, the chat's been great. You guys have been great. You're keeping us on other topics besides just a list, which is always fun to kind of go back and, bullshit as we kind of talk about these things and kind of go off in tangents about other things. I think that's what makes these shows work. But man, what do you guys got coming up over there?
So
this week,
CK is on some sort of extended vacation. I don't know what the hell he's doing. He doesn't deserve it, but he's on it. And
so you're taking matters in your own hands then.
The only thing that I know Friday Night Lives is always going to be happening. And I think we'll have Mark back so we can continue the 5 picks from each year from 86 to 89. These are all films, like not just horror films, like all of our favorite films from those years. So that's coming on Friday. Tuesday, a video is dropping. I don't want to say what it is, but I think that like a lot of people will like it. So I'll just say to watch out on our page on DEADPIT Radio for a video that's a top 10 list that's coming out.
Ooh. Well, speaking of that, I just did a top 10 list video that dropped yesterday. And it's my top 10 made for TV horror movies.
I saw
And,
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
saw that.
I put that one out yesterday. It's actually, people seem to have really liked it. So if you guys want to go check that out, 10 made for TV horror movies that I think you guys should definitely check out. Obviously, it's only 10. There's plenty of other ones I could have talked about. So much so that a lot of the comments are, I told people to leave me their lists, and there's a lot of movies that people are talking about that I've never seen. So I think I'm going to try to find those movies, watch them, and maybe do like a part 2, because it seems like it's getting a lot of traction. People really like it. That one just released yesterday. Let me think what I've got this week. I've got a review I'm going to do this week on a movie that I kind of changed my mind about, a movie that I never cared for. And then I just recently got a brand new 4K, and I'm like, you know what? This movie's different than when I remember it. And I want to kind of talk about that and tell that story. I've got a list of lesser known horror movies that you should add to your Halloween watch list. And if you follow us on the Rad Pack Pod YouTube channel, that's the podcast that I'm a co-host of. And we have a show on Friday night doing a retrospective on Fred Savage. So if anybody is a Fred Savage fan from the 80s and 90s, you're going to want to hear what we have to say about that. So keep your eyes and ears open.
Little Monster's going to be in there.
I mean, think about the big 3. Yeah, Princess Bride, but it's like Little Monsters, vice versa. And the Wizard kind of came all out around the same time. So there was that little stint in the late 80s where he was just freaking everywhere.
Yeah,
that little bastard. Yeah, so guys, thank you again for you guys are making me laugh. If Jinx is a female, you're like my new favorite.
Yeah.
Of the
I'm gonna go ahead and say she's not. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Oh my god. But yeah, if you like Fred Savage, you want to go subscribe to the Rad Pack Pod over on YouTube. And again, if you're not subscribed and you watch this from my channel, hit the like button and go subscribe to DEADPIT Radio. And I guess vice versa. If you're on the DEADPIT page, hit that like button and come fly over to Born to be Rad and see what we got cooking over here. But man, this is Garrett at Born to be Rad. And like always, stay rad and stay
dead.
Bye, guys.